One person whom I consider to be a wise one, he once said, when you are having a spray and your kitchen is full of cockroaches and you see these cockroaches jumping all over the place, then you should know that your doom is working. And also today, when the law condemns us and we don't feel comfortable about it, that's the moment when we should know that it is really working. Welcome to Untruth, and thank you for joining me today. It is such a great delight that you have welcomed me in the comfort of your homes. And in here, we are building families for eternity. It is so easy to find fault on other people, and we are so fast when it comes to crucify them. And I would love us to look at this wonderful example of this thief who was hanging in the cross with Jesus. He says to him, remember me in paradise. And the wonderful words that Jesus proclaims to this man, he says to him, for sure I will be with thee in paradise. And in that moment when he was facing his last hours of living, he was given forgiveness. In that time, his sins were forgiven, and he was promised that in the time when Jesus is in paradise, he is going to be with him. He is going to supper with him. He is going to enjoy the eternity with him. And you long that today, in these last moments, take your heart unto him, and he is willing to forgive and cleanse you all from all iniquity and unrighteousness. One of the main points, the third one, which is deliverance from Satan's grasp. We will look at what did Paul say about the deliverance that Christ operates in us when we accept him. Hebrews chapter 2 verse 15, and deliver them who through fear of death were all their lifetime subject to bondage. And Colossians 1:13, who hath delivered us from the power of darkness and hath translated us into the kingdom of his dear Son. Satan will move upon minds that have been indulged, upon men that have always hated their own way, and anything presented to them in counsel or reproof to change their objectionable traits of character is considered fault-finding, binding them, restraining them, that they cannot have liberty to act themselves. The Lord in great mercy has sent messages of warning to them, but they would not listen to reproof. Like the enemy who rebelled in heaven, they did not like to hear. They do not correct the wrong they have done, but become accusers, declaring themselves misused and unappreciated. Now is the time of trial, of test, of proving. Those who, like Saul, will persist in having their own way will suffer as he did. Loss of honor, and finally, the loss of the soul. As Saul failed to be obedient to the Lord, it came to a time that the Spirit of the Lord as a king, it was removed from him up until he lost his life. And the very sad thing is the loss of his soul. And today, if we are not cautious enough, we will follow in these very same footsteps that Saul went. And let's make sure we do our best so that we might not follow on the footsteps of Saul. We are to look at that. How does Christ make us free from the penalty of the law, under which we are condemned? Romans chapter 6 verse 14 to 18. For sin shall not have dominion over you, for you are not under the law, but under grace. What then? Shall we sin because we are not under the law, but under grace? God forbid. Know ye not that to whom you yield yourselves servants to obey, his servants you are to whom you obey, whether of sin unto death, or of obedience unto righteousness. But God be thanked that you were the servants of sin, but you have obeyed from the heart that form of doctrine which was delivered you. Being then made free from sin, you became the servants of righteousness. The Apostle Paul, in relating his experience, presents an important truth concerning the work to be wrought in conversion. He says, I was alive without the law once. He felt no condemnation. But when the commandment came, when the law of God was etched upon his conscience, sin revived and died. Then he saw himself a sinner condemned by the divine law. Mark, it was Paul and not the law that died. As we go further, we'll look at point number 4, restoring God's image in us. How does faith in the gospel relate to the law of God? Romans chapter 3 verse 31. Do we then make void the law through faith? God forbid. Yea, we establish the law. What warning are we given against transgressing God's law? Romans 2 verse 23 to 27, we read that, Thou that makest thy boast of the law, through breaking the law, dishonoreth thou God. For the name of God is blasphemed among the Gentiles through you, as it is written, For circumcision verily profiteth, if thou keep the law. But if thou be a breaker of the law, thy circumcision is made uncircumcision. Therefore, if the uncircumcision keep the righteousness of the law, shall not his uncircumcision be counted for circumcision? And shall not uncircumcision, which is by nature, if it fulfill the law, judge thee, who by the later uncircumcision dost transgress the law? 1 Timothy 1, 9 and 10, knowing this, that the law is not made for a righteous man, but for the lawless and disobedient, for the ungodly and for sinners, for unholy and profane, for murderers of fathers and murderers of mothers, for manslayers, for warmongers, for them that defile themselves with mankind, for men stealers, for liars, for perjured persons, and if there be any other thing that is contrary to sound doctrine. Most of the times when it comes to the law, many people, they tend to reject it because it's touching their sinful acts that they are doing. And even they can't talk about the law because it condemns them. One person whom I consider to be a wise one, he once said, when you are having a spray and your kitchen is full of cockroaches and you see these cockroaches jumping all over the place, then you should know that your doom is working. And also today, when the law condemns us and we don't feel comfortable about it, that's the moment when we should know that it is really working. The law of God is the mirror to show many the defects of his character, but it is not pleasant to those who take pleasure in unrighteousness to see their moral deformity. They do not prize this faithful mirror because it reveals to them their sins. Therefore, instead of instituting a war against their carnal minds, they war against the true and faithful mirror given them by Jehovah for the very purpose that they may not be deceived, but that they may have revealed to them the defects of their character. And because of sin, there is something that we lose. And now the question is, what do we lose through sin? We will look at the book of Romans chapter 3 verse 23, which says that, For all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. And so, what is to be restored in us through the gospel? 2 Corinthians 3 verse 18, But we all with open face beholding as in a glass the glory of the Lord are changed into the same image from glory to glory, even as by the Spirit of the Lord. And how? We look at 1 Thessalonians 5:23. And the very God of peace sanctify you wholly, and I pray God, your whole spirit and soul and body be preserved blameless unto the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. As we look forward to this blessed hope, as Jesus Christ went to heaven to prepare a place, that where He is, you may also be. That where He is, I may also be. And the only condition for us to be able to get there, we need to be obedient to the law of God and keep it as it is. Through Christ who strengthens us, we are able to keep it and live according to the guidelines and live according to the purpose. And why is it that God put that law? That law is there for a purpose. As we consider this wonderful wise man Solomon, he says, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep His commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. So the whole duty of man is to fear God and keep His commandments. And through Christ, we are able to live obedient and live a righteous life. God is clothed with power. He is able to give those who are dead in trespasses and sins, and by the operation of the Spirit which raised Jesus from the dead, transform the human character, bringing back to the soul the lost image of God. Those who believe in Jesus Christ are changed from being rebels against the law of God into obedient servants and subjects of His kingdom. They are born again, regenerated, sanctified through the truth. Last but not least, we are going to look at the fifth point, the heirs of the kingdom. On what condition and for what purpose has God given us the spirit of adoption? We will consider the book of Romans chapter 8, verse 14 to 17. For as many are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God. For you have not received the spirit of bondage again to fear, but ye have received the spirit of adoption, whereby we cry, Abba, Father. The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of God. And if children, then heirs of God, and joined heirs with Christ. If so, be that we suffer with Him, that we may be also glorified together. There is something that is so essential, and that we have to reveal, that we are the adopted children of God. We will look at 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 16 to 18. And what agreement hath the temple of God with idols? For ye are the temple of the living God, as God hath said, I will dwell in them and walk in them, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Wherefore come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you, and will be a father unto you, and you shall be my sons and daughters, saith the Lord Almighty. As we also consider the book of 1 Peter 1:4, whereby are given unto us exceeding great and precious promises, that by these ye might be partakers of the divine nature, having escaped the corruption that is in the world through lust. Let everyone who desires to be a partaker of the divine nature appreciate the fact that he must escape the corruption that is in the world through lust. There must be a constant, earnest struggling of the soul against the evil imaginings of the mind. There must be a steadfast resistance of temptation to sin in thought or act. The soul must be kept from every stain through faith in Him, who is able to keep you from falling. We should meditate upon the scriptures, thinking soberly and candidly upon the things that pertain to our eternal salvation. As we have already read in here, we see that there should be a total resistance to sin. And we look at that the sin, it leads to destruction. I have already uploaded one of the videos which is entitled, Honey, I Love You, but I Have to Let You Go. Please make sure that you go and visit that one so that you might understand and have a clear background where we are coming from and where we are going. And now, how are we enabled to resist the clamoring of our own carnal nature? Colossians chapter 1 verse 10-11. that ye might walk worth of the Lord, unto all pleasing, being fruitful in every good work, and increasing in the knowledge of God, strengthened with all might according to his glorious power, unto all patience and long suffering with joyfulness. And also the book of Ephesians chapter 3 verse 16 and 20 reads as, that he would grant you according to the riches of his glory to be strengthened with might by his Spirit in the inner man. Now unto him that is able to do exceeding abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that worketh in us. Now unto him that is able to do exceeding abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that worketh in us. And as we have read all this, we look at that man cannot transform himself by the exercise of his will. He possesses no power by which this change can be effected. All the culture and education which the world can give will fail of making a degraded child of sin a child of heaven. The renewing energy must come from God. The change can be made only by the Holy Spirit. All who would be saved, high or low, rich or poor, must submit to the working of his power. We might not know what tomorrow has in store for us, and today perhaps you might be separated from the living. We look at this wonderful man by the name Simeon, as he was there in the temple and Jesus was brought in there. He held Jesus in his hands. He says that, Lord, let thy servant depart in peace, for I have seen the consolation of Israel. If today perhaps you and I die today and we leave this world, when the time comes, when Jesus comes, and he says, well done, my faithful servant, will these words be pronounced unto you, or will they be pronounced to me? Let's think upon that. This marks the end of our presentation for today. And also, I look forward to seeing you on the next study. I will start to upload daily encouraging words. And make sure you do subscribe so that you won't miss out of these wonderful times that we're going to spend together. I look forward to seeing you on the next study, and make sure you subscribe.